And the final thing I want to share with you all are just the next steps that you should be taking. Number one, following this presentation, you will get an email with not only a link to the New York resume template, but also to a copy of this recording. Watch the replay, send it to any friends you know who couldn't join today because of exams. This information is going to be absolutely crucial prior to you applying to New York firms, but also prior to May 3rd. Make sure to add me on LinkedIn, Hana Dhanji, if you don't already have me, because that's where a lot of announcements about upcoming workshops will be posted. If you want to find out about the 94% success rate I have in placing clients in New York from last year, go to my website at thelawschooledge.com. It'll give you all the information you need to know on what it looks like to work with me. And then finally, make sure you stay tuned to your inboxes and LinkedIn for that May 3rd workshop registration, which will be coming out soon. Without further ado, I want to turn it over in our last few minutes to you for questions that you may have. Any thoughts, first of all? Was this helpful? Thumbs up if it was. Was this good new information? Amazing, amazing, amazing. Lots of love. Amazing. Okay, good. Now questions. What do you want to know? What hasn't been answered today? And if it's going to be answered on May 3rd, I'll let you know as well. But are there specific things you are worried about? Okay, so Jude says Osgood winter grades are only posted close to the end of May. Do you recommend submitting transcripts early with only 1L fall grades or waiting until the end of May? Jude, I think that as long as the rest of your application is ready to go, I would wait till the end of May and then submit right away with the full transcript. The last thing I would want is for you to have an incomplete application and for it to be dismissed on those grounds. If for any reason I find out that firms are prepared to look at students pending the release of final grades early, I will let you know and I will email everybody. But I want you guys to make their job as easy as possible by submitting complete applications, and end of May is not too late, but no later than the end of May. So as soon as those grades come in, you're firing off all of your applications. So in the meantime, by the way, you should be filling out a tracker, like an Excel spreadsheet tracker with the list of all the firms you plan on applying to, all the portal links or the HR email addresses that you have to send them to. And you should be ready to go to just hit send, send, send as soon as those grades come in. Katrina wants to know, do they start interviews as soon as they receive applications? So it depends on the firm. There is no standard process here. Davis Polk, for example, has said, which is a top 10 firm, has said that they will open their portals on May 15th. They could start interviewing May 16th if they wanted. Remember that there's even a pre-OCI process in which they've probably gone to some of the top Ivy League schools and already started courting candidates as of February. So they may have already started interviewing and extending offers to like gold medalist candidates or course prize winning candidates. So they could start as early as the very next day. It could be June. There is no set hard and fast rule. So the earlier you apply, the better your chances. But this is also why the May 3rd workshop is so interview focused, because unlike Toronto or unlike the Canadian application process, you don't submit your application and then 3 months later you get an interview. It could be 3 hours or 3 days or 3 weeks later. So you've got to be ready for an interview the day you submit your application, if that makes sense. But I'm going to prepare you in the workshop for what to expect. So that if, for example, you submit to Davis Polk May 15th and May 16th, they call you and say, we want a screening interview with you tomorrow, you're going to be ready to go. If you genuinely feel like you want New York and you know you need help, please don't wait to book a call with me. I have a limited capacity in terms of the number of students I can help. And I want to make sure that those who are really hungry for this opportunity get the help they need, because you will need not only application prep, but interview prep simultaneously. Because once this gets going, it happens like lightning speed. And by the end of July, most of this has wrapped up. Most firms have already extended their offers. And there's only a few stragglers in August. So this is lightning from end of May to end of July. Thousands of people will be getting offers, or thousands of offers will be extended. So you want to make sure you're part of that, the big sweep. If you don't start this till July, you may as well not start this at all. So if you're going to get help, message me or book a call early. So Katrina asks, how can we rewatch this recording? I joined late. For anyone who wants to watch this recording again, it will be circulated to everybody who registered for this workshop. So about 200 people registered. Not everyone was able to attend because of exams. Each of you will be getting a link in your inbox. The same way that you got a link to today's session, you will be getting a link to the recording. And you can feel free to forward that to your friends too who weren't able to register, or send them the registration link. Because once you're on my email list, you'll get the updates around part 2 as well. Are there any other questions? I know we're at time. If you do have specific questions about your application or your candidacy or your likelihood of being able to compete in New York, please book that call with me. You've got my link. You can also message me on LinkedIn. The last question I have here is, do firms care at all about how well Canadian candidates can make the move to the US? Are candidates with visas, US citizenships more competitive? No, not really. Because typically, in order to work in the United States, if you are not a Canadian or a Mexican citizen, you are part of an H-1B lottery system. But because of the NAFTA agreement, Canadians fall under a non-H-1B category. It's called the TN visa, and there is no cap to how many TN visas can be given out. There are 65 categories under the TN visa. One of them is the attorney category. So for Canadians to work in the US is a non-issue at all. Literally, you walk to the border, show them your offer letter, they stamp your passport with a 3-year visa, and you're on your way. The TN visa is not the same thing as a pathway to citizenship, though. For that, you would need a green card, and that requires a different sort of visa. But if it's just working in the US with non-citizenship track, the TN visa is sufficient. And so there was no real difference between having US work authorization as a US citizen versus a TN visa. If an application asks whether you are eligible to work in the US, for Canadians, you say, you either qualify it if there's room to write it in and say TN visa eligible, or you would just put no initially. You can also call the firm and ask what they would prefer to see. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Please be in touch with me if you have any follow-ups. There is a part 2 on May 3rd. I hope to see you all there. Thank you, guys, and I hope a lot of you will consider now applying to New York. I want to see the Canadian contingent increase in the city. Thanks again. Take care.